What is up, everybody? Welcome on into another episode here of Dbacks Dispatch. Back to the full trio. Our main man Gabe is back from heaven, doing some sightseeing, seeing some beautiful parts of the world. So we are glad to have him back. And we'll get some of his thoughts really quickly on some of the things that happened while he was gone. But if this is your first time here, either viewing or in the live chat, whatever, for Dbacks Dispatch, welcome on in. Pleasure to have you. Liking, commenting, subscribing really helps. Check us out on Twitter as well. I know it's off season, so it's a little bit dead, but whenever it's in season, we got banger memes all the time. So make sure you're following us on there. And then also, again, join the Discord as well, because we do obviously have other off-season channels like football, hockey, basketball. Great way to meet other fans of the same
movies
team
and
as you.
TV too.
Yeah, movies and TV, like plenty of channels in there that are not just centrally baseball related. So if you're looking for just good community of people to talk to, the Discord, which is in our link in the description, go check that out. And then finally, check out all the articles over on AZ Snake Pit. Again, I know it's the off season, but there are some like player reviews, deep dives, and then even articles going into some of the potential rumors and trades that could be happening for the D-backs as we near the hot stove season a little bit sooner, which we'll probably get more on after, I'd say, Thanksgiving, but only time will tell. But like I said, in the meantime, we wanted to let Gabe have the floor for a little bit here, because he was gone for, I'd say, almost all of October. It seemed like basically the most of the playoffs. So Gabe, we wanted to get your thoughts on the World Series and how it ended. And then with like more centralized in the D-backs, the players that opted out, along with the players the D-backs exercised their team deals on, the Goldie rumors that have been kind of circulating a little bit, and then again, anything else that you may have not been able to get your 2 cents in on. So, sir, the floor is yours.
So I guess to start off with the World Series, I don't know how anybody could look at that playoff picture originally and not have the Dodgers and the Yankees in the World Series, and the Dodgers taking that because they were the best teams, and I think the only real opponents that at least the Dodgers had would have been San Diego, but because of the way the standings were, San Diego only played 5 games. But I think if they would have gone to 7, I think San Diego might have had the advantage there. But the Dodgers' only question was the pitching, starting pitching specifically. But the way baseball just schedules everything, they'll play one game, take a day off, and then play another game. You just, really gave the Dodgers the advantage to be able to manipulate their guys, give guys certain, rest days that they normally wouldn't get, if this was a regular season. But, it's disappointing as D-backs fans, but it's also, should serve as a wake-up call to a lot of these guys as well, that I do think if the Diamondbacks would have snuck into the playoffs, they probably would have gone to the World Series again, and they should have probably beat the Yankees as well, because the Yankees were just, regular season merchants who played teams who were White Sox merchants. Like, that's all these teams were. If you look at their records against the White Sox, the teams that made the playoffs were the teams that had the best record against the White Sox. So, when you have that happen, the American League was just so incredibly weak this year, and the Yankees were just a technically bad team. When I say technically bad, I mean like actual technical ability in terms of running the bases, their defense, just their pure dumb mistakes that they would make constantly. They did it a lot against lesser teams, but they were able to get away with it just because these teams weren't actually all that good. But that won't fly against the Dodgers, and Dodgers were able to take care of business and handle them. And everyone who's talking about this being good for baseball, like, I don't know how you see the results of these 5 games and say this was good for baseball, other than just the ratings maybe. But if you combine the ratings for like the New York audience and the LA audience, you're talking about like 30 or 40 million people. And even then, they still only had like 15 million people watching the World Series, and that's nationwide. And 350 million people, and 50 million people still tuned in. So
I wonder if it counts streaming or meth streams or streamies viewers, because
So game 1, from what I remember, had like a very high viewership, and it would have probably been a heavily watched World Series if it was competitive, but it wasn't.
Yeah, so and that's the thing. It's like I think most people other than maybe just media analysts had this being either a gentleman sweep or a straight up sweep. And and when I talked to my brothers about it, we all agreed it would be a gentleman sweep only because of the bullpen game, which that wasn't the game that they lost anyways, but we all thought it would be over in anywhere from 45 games. Like there was no real matchup here that would be worth watching. The whole thing Aaron Judge versus Shohei Ohtani, and they both batted like 150 in the playoffs. Like it was terrible. It wasn't great for anybody. And I mean, I guess congrats to the Dodgers and congrats to Dodger fans. It took spending at $1.2 billion in the offseason. Like we also had the Guggenheim Group, which is worth $200 billion, and maybe we could have competed with them a little bit more. But again, as I was saying, like this should be a wake up call to the D-backs who, you know, light a fire in their ass. I'm like, this was your World Series, and you guys just completely choked. And to a certain extent, I blame the D-backs for the Dodgers winning the World Series because that could have been them, and that probably should have been them. But all I know is that I'm glad I wasn't here for like the last month to watch any of the playoff games or the World Series. Like I found out through proxy. Like I muted every MLB account that was just glazing Ohtani the whole time. Like
What, you didn't like the little Fox graphic?
yeah, they had it on my plane too. Like I don't know if I posted.
I think that is
I saw that on Instagram.
disrespectful thing they've ever done. Like they
Yeah,
don't
just like 3 batters away. Like it wasn't for anybody else, which is like kind of messed up too. I'm like can't do it for like Judge either.
It makes me hate Ohtani more. Like, and it's not even his fault.
Yeah,
not even his fault. Just Major League Baseball. They're like, oh, we got our one golden boy, so let's just shove it in everybody's face. Like that's how they think to market players. Is that they choose one guy. And I'm like, you have plenty of other guys you can do this. Like, but
like it's kind of the same issue.
He didn't have that great of a postseason. Like he had that home run against the Padres in Game 1.
Yeah, but that's also like I think the issue with the NBA too, where they're like, oh, well, there's no, new star that's not LeBron James or Steph Curry. Like this new batch of young stars aren't getting it done the way LeBron James. In terms of ratings and stuff like that. But it's like, well, one compared to how it used to be, they used to actually show sports on regular channels, and now you got to find like just some random Wagugi or whatever streaming app you have to find out. You have to get a free trial to be able to watch games or something now. And it's, the landscape has changed, and the way they market players, it's the same thing. It's like they still market them one guy, and instead of same with the Suns in Milwaukee, they were just glazing Giannis the whole time. It's like you could highlight Booker, you could highlight some of these other guys and make them stars. Same with the Diamondbacks. I mean, MLB kind of just didn't market, even the World Series. They didn't even really bother marketing it properly. Like you could have turned Corbin Carroll into a star. You could have turned Jonah Heim into a star. There's a lot of guys on both teams who are young and had potential to be these rising stars. And MLB was just like, yeah, but what is Ohtani doing right now? But anyways, moving on to player opt-outs. Sucks to lose Jock. Sucks to lose.
Temporarily.
Hopefully,
yeah,
temporarily.
For now, but having certain, it always makes me nervous to have certain guys opt out. So, and in terms of the Goldie rumors, bring him home. I mean, this might be his last year or two on the big leagues. I mean, he's 37, I believe. He still has a lot to give. I think, we messaged in the group chat that against right-handed hitters, he had like a well over 800 OPS. Left-handed pitchers, he had a well over 800 OPS. So he can still play first base. So we might need a first baseman depending on what Walker does as well. So, and I don't want Pavement Smith taking 400 or 500 at bats this season. So Pavement Smith, keep him at around 150. He's gonna have a 800 OPS around if he stays around
for
there.
Me, max is 250. Like 250 at bats max for Pavement Smith. If he's doing more than that, I mean, Either we have a really bad injury problem, or Tori's being Tori.
Yeah, so it's just one of those things where it's not just, one of those things where it's like, oh, it's a nice story that he's come back. No, I think he still has a lot to give. I think as a guy, if we can't get Jock back, I think Goldie is a good replacement for him. Again, he can play first base. We need a first baseman. Last year we ran into trouble when Walker got hurt because we didn't really have anybody, who could play first base properly the way Walker did. And so, yeah, I mean, we're gonna miss certain these guys, Jock, Bell. Who else was it? There's a couple. Grichuk. Gonna miss Grichuk, Newman. Like, Mike Hazen has a lot of work to do this offseason with either free agents or in the upcoming winter meetings.
Yeah, so it's definitely. I know me and Brandon kind of got our 2 cents in, and had plenty of time to kind of go over it and deep dive into all of it. So if you guys missed any of that, in some of our previous shows, go and listen Apple, Spotify, even on the YouTube, so you can see our faces and reactions to that. Because sometimes it is fun to see the actual visual side to it. But yeah, so I think we're all in agreement on the same page that he has a lot of work to get done. Whether he actually fully brings back the D-backs, and I know we'll kind of get a little more into it, but at least we're one of 6 teams that are aggressively pursuing him. So I expected it, but at least it's confirmed that they are still trying to do what they can to get him back. And then some of the other guys like, Grichuk and Newman, like we'll probably miss them a little bit, but I think the big ones are definitely going to be Jock and Walk. I think what they bring to the lineup. And even if we do get Walker, I kind of still want Goldie here as the right-handed hitter DH to, fill in for Grichuk. Yes, I'm a homer. Yes, I'm biased, but just bring me Goldie back.
At the very least, if we don't bring back Walker, we get a draft pick.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So,
but one of the whether we're having Goldie come back or we're actually re-signing Walker to have him, I guess, technically come back. Either way, we do at least get a little bit of happy news on Monday. Yeah, Monday night. They did announce the Gold Glove, or sorry, Sunday night. They announced the Gold Glove winners. The D-backs only had 1 Gold Glove winner out of the 5 finalists and nominees. It was Walker, Gabby, Cattell, Gurriel, and McCarthy. We weren't really surprised on really many of them, maybe other than Gurriel, because he had somewhat of a shot with Hap, but Walker, in our opinion, was the one that definitely should have gotten it. And this is now his 3rd straight Gold Glove. And it wanted me to ask a question to you guys because I was curious. Brandon, kind of threw this out in the group chat, and I really liked, the mindset with it. Is Christian Walker the best first baseman or like defensive first baseman we've seen in a Diamondbacks uniform, or is Goldie still, if maybe not the holder necessarily, is he still really heavily in contention? Because I went through and got the DRS defensive run saved for each of their 3 Gold Glove seasons. Goldie actually had a year off in between each one of his, where Walker obviously won 3 straight. But they both still ended up with the same amount of defensive runs saved, with 33 in
which
basically
was
11 per year.
Mind-boggling. The exact same. I'm like, God damn it! This doesn't make this discussion easier. It just makes it even harder.
It really does, because Goldie had 5 in 2013, 14 in 2015, and then 14 again in 2017. Walker, his best year just off of defensive runs saved was 22. He had 17. 23, he had 9, and then and this is all obviously per Fangraphs that I'm going off of. And then 24, he had 7. So obviously both of them ended up at 33. So Gabe, I want to start with you on this one. Floor is yours with it. Do you think that Walker is the best defensive first baseman, or do you think it's still too close to call with obviously seeing some of the stats with Goldie?
I guess the issue you're always going to run into when comparing the two is that Goldie played longer, just in general, just not just for the D-backs, but even for the Cardinals and stuff like that. Walker, this is his fifth full year in the majors. And I say 5th full year because his first full year was in 2019.
Yeah.
So 19, but obviously didn't play all of 2020 because of the pandemic. But I do think that there's a certain steadiness that Walker has that even if there's a freaking rocket launch to him, it seems like he just has it, and I think his IQ for the game might be even bigger than Goldie's. Like the main thing I remember Goldie was those turning those double plays, like just the turnarounds that he would do and get the double plays easily. Walker did that, but then he also had plays like that one where there was a pop up. He pretended he was going to catch it, didn't, and he got the double play. But I do think Walker might be slightly better. I mean, maybe the stats back it up, maybe they don't. But for this team, with what they've had, I mean, the D-backs had a pretty decent infield for a while during Goldie's tenure. And I feel like the infield at times could be worse with Walker. I mean, we all remember that first year with Perdomo. Perdomo was not it in his first full year. Like Walker was bailing him out. He was bailing out Gattel during those years too. He was bailing out, like 15 different third basemen constantly, and still was putting up great numbers and great defense compared to Goldie, who had a little bit more of a steady infield during his time. So I do think Walker is a better first baseman, at least defensively. But I think that might just be recency bias. Goldie hasn't been here since 2018, so it's hard, and I think it's close. But I do think losing Walker is Goldie 2.0.
Yes, I think you make a great point with the maybe the recency bias, and then also Goldie still does technically. I know it's not in D-backs uniform, but he does have another one with St. Louis, so he has 4 total Gold Gloves versus Walker's 3. But I think with him being here longer, and especially like you said, there are things with Walker making Perdomo look a lot better or his stats look probably a lot better than what they could have looked like. But even going off of Scoops, which is the first baseman Scoops, God, I love fan graphs and the random stuff they have. Walker in 22, 23, and then 24. So he had 10 and 22, 15 and 23, 18 and 24. And again, he still missed like a month or so. Whereas Goldie still was pretty solid. In 2013, he had so 2013, I don't know if it was like Nick Ahmed or what it was, but Goldschmidt had 71. In 15, he had 37, and in 17, he had 27. So maybe it's just like they're good in both categories. Like you said, Walker's really good with some of those hard hit balls off the bat. Seems like he's just always in position where he needs to be. And then on the other end, I think I know it's biased for me, but going through high school, I tried to model my game after Goldschmidt just with how he was able to scoop and save so many bad throws over at first. But Brandon, same question to you. Obviously, with some of the things. Seeing those stats, I think you kind of took the words right out of my mouth on just being shocked with the fact that they both ended up with the same amount of DRS in those 3 seasons. But where would you kind of weigh in on this debate on the 2 first basemen and who would potentially be the best defensive first baseman in Dbacks history?
So definitely recency bias, because we've been seeing it so much the last 4 seasons. Like, to me, it's Walker. Also, I feel like he's been dominant. Like, it's not like I think Goldie is a good first baseman. He did win 3 with the D-backs, but he didn't win them in 3 consecutive years.
Him, Freddie Freeman, and Rizzo really fought with each other for a couple of years.
Yeah, so he won it in 2013, 2015, and 2017 as a D-back. But what Walker has done, it's really not even close. Like you said, there's a discussion with other first basemen during that time, who was the best defensive first baseman. Right now, if you ask it in the National League, it is Christian Walker, because he makes these plays and you're just left speechless. But also, I think he does have trouble with that throw to second to turn that double play. He does occasionally have some throws that are pretty ugly to watch. So I think Goldie has that on him. Goldie does have an additional Gold Glove on Christian Walker, but he's also been playing longer. Christian Walker's first full season was 2019. So pretty much been playing full time since then. 2018, Paul Goldschmidt was still here. So Walker was not getting consistent at bats. And he really didn't come into his own defensively until 22, when he was 31 years old.
That's wild.
So I think it's a close discussion between the two. Like, I can see why you would pick Goldie, why you would pick Walker. I just think with the dominance Christian Walker has done the last 3 seasons, it is Christian Walker for me that is the better defensive first baseman between the two. The only downside, like so I'm not sure. Can you say that this hurts more or less than when we like if Chris Walker doesn't come back? Does it hurt more or less than Paul Goldschmidt? Because yes, we got players back, but they were not good. Like that trade.
I think it's a little bit different because at least with like Goldie was here for some of the rough years. Like he was in year 2011. He was part of the reason why like Tim Lincecum and the Giants were insane. Like they were the boogeyman of the NL West, and Goldschmidt put a nail in Lincecum's coffin and basically owned him and adopted him to be his son, like what Matt Kemp did to Archie Bradley. Pain. But I think with some of the things that Goldie was here and some of the seasons, and again, I know I'm going to be very biased with it. I think having Goldie leave and the way he left would definitely hurt way more than Walker potentially leaving the free agency. But again, that's just me.
Yeah, I think also that it was a trade. It wasn't free agency. With Walker, it's gonna be free agency. We're expecting it. We know that he's gonna, maybe he's gonna move on. With Goldschmidt, it just came out of nowhere. Like I think even Archie Bradley has talked about it in the PHNX show where he said that like there was no news about it and there's no, media about it. Like there was just a conversation between Hazen, Torrey, and Goldie, and then like a day later he was traded. And when we got back, didn't really pan out for us, unfortunately. And at least in that first year, if you compare Goldie's numbers and Walker's numbers, they were almost identical. I think just Goldie was a little bit better defensively, but overall, pretty much the same guy. But he did win his MVP with the Cardinals. But Brandon did make a good point when he's talking about, there being a discussion. With Walker, there is no discussion. He is the best defensive first baseman in the league, not just in the National League. I think even in the American League, you can make that at least that argument that he's even better than who won it this time. I didn't even pay attention to that part of it.
Like that's the thing. Like whoever it is, it doesn't come immediately to mind. So
yeah.
I'm looking it up right now.
Cleveland guy was, I don't know.
No,
for first base. Oh, Santana, Carlos Santana.
Yeah. So
who might be who
could be a potential replacement. But again, like I said,
he wants like a 3-year deal, but he's 38 years old. I'm like, bro, I don't know about that.
Yeah, but again, with during Goldie's tenure here, there was a discussion. It was him, Freddie Freeman, Joey Votto, Rizzo. There was like 4 or 5 guys that you could argue are, were better defensive first baseman. And between the 4 of them, they were trading Gold Gloves left and right while Goldie was here. So at least with Walker, it's like, no, like there is no trading back and forth. He is the most dominant first baseman in the game.
Defensively.
Yeah, defensively, yeah.
Yeah.
And now, honestly, if even offensively, he's getting up there at least. If he can bounce back.
But yeah, like if you want to just go overall now, that's a completely different discussion because you gotta there are other things that are involved with
that's going to Freddie Freeman. I feel like after the World Series and all this in the postseason, I think Freddie Freeman
recency bias, definitely. Now Paul Goldschmidt has a full season MVP. Freddie only has a half season MVP. Again, it's still an MVP. Every team played that season. So, take that.
I'm about to mute Brandon.
Sorry. Hey, you can blame Cruz because he says it to me all the time, and it just sticks in my mind.
Nah, that's fair.
So,
I think it's definitely a solid conversation, and I think you make a lot of great points, especially like Gabe said with him. There's no question. Like this year, I think the fielding Bible going to Matt Olson. I think that was the first time that he didn't win it. Obviously in this run of Gold Gloves. So maybe just going off of that, maybe it's, there's somebody else in the discussion, but like you said, everybody in baseball knows who is going to.
I think Fielding Bible goes just purely on stats, and Walker missed so much time.
Yeah, Olsen didn't have the cumulative stats too. He had an extra 200 innings, I think.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because Walker missed so much time, and Gold Glove is voted on by the coaches. You just can't vote for your own guy.
Also, a weird thing about Christian Walker is he's actually very undersized for a first baseman. Most first basemen are usually around 6'4". Matt Olson 6'5". Goldschmidt is 6'3". And I mean, even if you look at him on
Walker's
the field, it's 6 feet. He's
yeah,
you know
yeah.
he's
He's
Yes.
flat.
average.
But if you look at him, when he's playing on the field, if you ever seen Goldschmidt up close or anything, Walker is clearly much shorter than Goldie was, and you look at Tony Clark and stuff like that, who's like 6'7". Like
Tony
first
Clark's up.
basemen are usually very tall and very long because they need all that space that they can get. Same with third baseman. Usually you have really tall guys who plays these positions because they have to do these picks. And same with Walker and Goldie, the way they throw it way too high, they're able to grab the ball, bring it back down, and they're able to extend themselves. And just the fact that Walker has as much range as he does, probably more range than Matt Olson and Paul Goldschmidt, despite being a few inches shorter than them. And it's not like his wingspan is ridiculous or anything like that. It's normal wingspan. Um, just lets you know how good his reaction is, how great he is at reading the ball, and how great of a defender he is.
Yeah, I personally think Walker is more physically imposing, though. Like just his look, like he's super serious.
It's
Like
so funny because he looks like he would be pissed off all the time, but he's just one of the nicest guys I've ever one
he
of the
just
nicest players I've ever
he
talked to.
just as soon as he steps out of the dugout onto the field, it is game time. It is go like some guys once the game starts, completely different person. They're just ultra competitive.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it in. Again, I would love to see him back in Arizona, but
Same.
it's again
We'll
kind of
see.
like a lot of the other things. Only time will tell. And while he was the only Diamondback to win a Gold Glove, that doesn't mean that he's the only Diamondback that uh, will potentially and should take home an award this offseason, because Ketel Marte is a finalist for second base Silver Slugger, and in our opinion, even with the time missed, I don't think there's any other second baseman that even come close. Like it's he was blown out of the water by Bryce Terang in the Gold Glove, and he just returned the favor to every other second baseman. And just again, stellar year, MVP type. If it wasn't for that month gone, he could have at least gotten some second place votes. But the question that kind of had, we talked about in the group chat, and then I wanted to ask you, Gabe, you, Brandon, and also again, shout out to Bubba and Oscar as well in the chat. Oscar, damn, I agree. Damn right time that gave us back sponsorship money. Hey, you know what? He's living his life. I can't hate him. I'd be doing the exact same thing. But the question to you guys in the chat, but most importantly, Gabe and Brandon, I wanted to address with Ketel is, do you think that there's any of the D-backs deserving of a nod at a Silver Slugger that maybe got slugged or snubbed? Like I know maybe
Slugged.
Gino potentially, and it was the first one that kind of came to my mind, because there were like maybe DH, but again, nobody was going to win the DH Silver Slugger over Ohtani. Like it just wasn't going to happen. But Gino was the first one that came to my mind. I was curious to see if there's any other guys that popped into your head. So I wanted to, kind of give the floor to you, Gabe, and see if there's anybody else that, you had in mind.
Yeah, it probably would be Gino. The issue with him is just he started off so bad that he did recover. He still batted around 250. Still hit 30 home runs, 100 RBI. He got those big round numbers that most people like to see. So probably should at least gotten a bit of a nod. I think the issue he's going to run into is that third base is a very competitive position. There's a lot of great third basemen in the league, especially offensively. So I just think the team, for the most part, was very well rounded, enough that they weren't relying on one big guy to hit every home run or anything like that. So I think maybe that's why most of these guys weren't in contention for Silver Slugger, even though they did have great numbers. But again, there weren't Ohtani at the DH position. Like Jock did great, but he also only had around 400 at bats. Like there's a lot of guys who, even though hit certain round numbers, I think the amount of at bats that they got, and compared to some other guys, they just weren't able to put up those numbers. And so for me, I think they got it right in terms of putting Cattell, and I think he should win. And if there's anybody can maybe make an argument for it, would it be Gino?
So I'm gonna say Christian Walker. Had he not missed, like had Christian played about another 20 games or so, his numbers are very similar to Bryce Harper. So Bryce Harper had 550 at bats. Christian Walker had 479. Bryce Harper, 30 homers, 87 runs driven in. Walker, with like 75 less at bats, 26 and 84. Like, it's like if Christian didn't miss as much time, I think there's a discussion there that Walker should have been a finalist. Also, and I think Gabe said it, the only reason Suarez probably wasn't is because of how bad he started. Because Alec Boehm is a finalist. At bats are pretty much the same for both of them. Yes, Boehm
He was a really big double guy.
Yeah. Well, he has a higher average, but Gino had double the homers, more runs driven in, and a higher OPS. But again, it's because his average is 250. They're like, oh, like how bad he started. It's also Alec Boehm only had 62 runs scored. Gino had 90. So
Brings up a great point in the comment section about Boehm finishing bad.
Yeah.
Like if Gino was knocked for, starting slow, I think maybe Boehm should have been knocked a little bit for finishing bad. But what are the third basemen or the finalists for the Silver Slugger? Obviously, it's Boehm,
Matt Chapman and Manny Machado.
Okay, Manny Machado, that makes sense. I could see him being up there because he's always.
You can also make an argument that Gino should make it over Matt Chapman. Matt Chapman batted 247, 27 homers and 78 runs driven in. Like that one, you can make a discussion for. Manny Machado, his final numbers were regular season. 275 average, 29 homers, 105 driven in with an OPS of 797. So right around where Gino is as well. Like they're all very close. And I don't know how these are voted. If this is voted by players, by coaches, but I think Gino kind of got snubbed here. All right. So the manager and 3 coaches from every major league team cast their votes for the winner.
Yeah, I could see that first month being the reason why that he probably got left out in people's minds.
Well, it wasn't even the first month. I mean, you're talking about the first 3
2.5
months of
months.
it.
Yeah,
it's like almost 3 months of the season that he was bad. So at that point, I had played a lot of teams. So I can see why they probably would have thought he was probably written off early on, and most of them just didn't think about him at all. Especially in the second half, like maybe the D-backs had made more noise coming to the playoff time. They probably, he probably would have gotten his flowers because other than Chapman, that's the only guy who didn't go to the playoffs, right?
I think so. Yeah,
because Boehm playoff team and favorites. The same with Machado with the Padres, a favorite into the playoffs. So I think not, being a true playoff team hurt Gino as well.
Yeah, honestly,
it wasn't his fault. He was not the reason we didn't make it. That's for sure.
He was one of the reasons we were probably even like that close in the end and kept our hopes alive. But even if he, obviously got snubbed a little bit, there is a chance that he could still potentially take home a Silver Slugger. It won't have just his name on it. Probably won't even have his name in general, but it could have the team that he played for, as the Dbacks are finalists with the World Series champion, gross to say, LA Dodgers for the National League team Silver Slugger. Just overall, just the better defensive or better offensive team. So just off of some of the, the stats that I've listed off here, I'm going to rapid fire through them. Arizona was first in average at 263, Dodgers second, 258. D-backs first in on-base percentage, Dodgers were second. D-backs were second in slugging, Dodgers were first. D-backs were second in OPS, Dodgers were first. D-backs third in home runs, Dodgers at first, only by they were short by 22. D-backs first in runs batted in, Dodgers second. D-backs third in walks, Dodgers first. D-backs were first in runs, Dodgers were second. D-backs were second in hits, Dodgers were third, and then D-backs were first in sac flies, Dodgers second. So pretty much neck and neck for a lot of this. And it had Josh, thank you, our producer extraordinaire, for the question because I was stumped on this one. He got for us, did the Dodgers deserve to win it more in the voters' eyes and fans on all that because of their run that they went into the playoffs and how they were able to especially go toe-to-toe with the Padres, take them down and all that? Or do you think that the Diamondbacks' offensive numbers somewhat speak for themselves and at least keep it a closer race and keep us a little more hopeful going into the final award voting? So, Gabe, start with you like usual. What do you think?
I believe most of these votes are put in like the last weekend of the season, so playoffs usually don't have anything to do with this. I think maybe the way the D-backs ended the season just so pathetically that might have hurt them, honestly. Like they were seen as, the quote unquote best offense in baseball, but with the way they ended and not even making the playoffs, I think that might hurt them, especially with the Dodgers, was still being the best team in baseball. I think record wise even. So I think it'll probably be the Dodgers getting that edge because they also won the NL. They, were the best team in baseball. So I do think the Dodgers are going to take it just because of that. But as you read off the stats, the D-backs have just as much claim for this as they do. But not making the playoffs, having, this supposedly great offense and still missing the playoffs, like that is going to hurt the narrative, at least for them, for getting this award. But I do think it's going to be closer than we might think.
I think you make a great point with they probably could have, ran out of gas at the end and it was just the wrong timing for the voters and that could doom them. But, I'm not a voter. I can't tell. Brendan, what are your thoughts? Do you think the D-backs have a chance of at least bringing home the team Silver Slugger, or do you think it's going to be one of those where they still lose out to their older brothers in LA?
They're going to give it because it's Shohei Ohtani. I wouldn't be surprised if they get it just for Shohei Ohtani. And I understand that this is voted on near the end of the regular season. It is a regular season award, but there's probably going to be a lot of managers and coaches that vote. Like, how can you be the best offensive team and not be in the postseason? Like, I personally think that it could be close. I'm just trying to think. Like, I just feel like a lot of the coaches that vote for this be like, if they're so great, why did they not make the playoffs? And also, they're going to be Major League Baseball wants to give the Dodgers as much as they can because the Dodgers didn't win any Gold Gloves, so they're like, we got to make sure that they get some awards because we know Shohei's probably gonna.
They got the most important award of the season and the most important trophy. Let us have this one, okay? And just let us have this one. You don't need another.
I hope I'm wrong. I really hope that I'm wrong on this. All I can say is if the D-backs do win this, Dodger fans are gonna riot. Like Dodger fans are gonna be so pissed. I'm like, first of all, y'all have a World Series, so shut your damn mouth.
Yeah, they're not gonna care. They would literally just go, "Oh no, we didn't win the Team Silver Slugger. We'll go cry on our World Series trophy."
They'll be like, where's the ring, guys? Where's the ring?
Yeah, they'll literally go cry on their World Series trophy. But rightfully so, they won. They can talk shit.
I mean, I honestly feel like a bit depressed talking about all these awards that the D-backs might win because I'm like, man, you guys didn't even make the playoffs and you're talking about awards. Like, it's when it comes to the MVP talk, like Aaron Judge is gonna probably win unanimously, and
I don't know if he's gonna win unanimously in the AL with what Bobby Witt did. I think Bobby Witt will get some first place.
I mean, he might be close, but I think it was how many home runs Judge hit. I think
Judge had an insane season. We saw in the group chat, Ben Verlander got bodied with like when that dude brought up all the stat differences between like Ohtani had a great season as a DH, Judge had and it's not Barry Bonds. No one's ever going to be Barry Bonds. Don't ever want to hear anybody say that Judge is the next Barry Bonds. But my God, were some of those stats that he put up and what he did very close to being Bonds-esque in that. So
I mean, he just had an incredible season, but I'm like, there's no way he's not going to be depressed getting that award because you're like, damn, I mean, it's going to lead into the whole, regular season merchant that he is. Because
do you
as
think
soon
he'll
as the
actually hold on
playoffs,
to that award when he gets it? Or is he going to drop the ball?
But I mean, seriously, like even for you guys, like, what do you guys think about that sort of thing? Because you're like, yeah, I batted 300 in the regular season, had like almost an 1100 OPS, and then once the actual playoff starts, I contribute nothing. I bat 150 with a 600 OPS, and I win MVP, and my team loses, gets their ass handed to them in the World Series. Like, isn't there's some kind of shame attached to that? Like,
no, because
I would feel it.
He's gonna look at his bank account and not give a damn. Or that's how I would be. I'd be like, all right, let me open my bank. Oh, that's right. There's 9 digits in there's 9 digits. There's a bunch of digits there. I don't care what you fans say.
Yeah, I could
I'm
see
talking
him
about
being.
fans. I'm not talking about fans. I'm talking about like their own mentality to think like, I didn't help my team out. Like, I'm getting this award as the best player in the American League, and yet I did nothing in the playoffs. And if anything, I cost them World Series with his error and his lack of ability at the plate.
Yeah, I think it's going to be one of those where just, I mean, as a player, like even like as a fan, we still have nightmares about our team that we weren't even there for when they lose the World Series. I imagine that it's going to be in the back of his mind, but it's still probably one of those where, he's probably going to be like, a cool, it sucks. But it's still an MVP. It's still like not everybody wins it. Like, and the season he had, he's going to probably, if anything, use it as more motivation to do the same, hopefully the same next year. Cause it's fun to make jokes, but I really want to see Judge have, kind of get that, that by him get through that slump for the playoffs because it sucks. Like I would rather have him hit multiple home runs and actually turn into Barry Bonds than do what he did because maybe the Yankees win. But I think he'll kind of just turn the page on it. Like it's still probably gonna be pretty cool. Still probably gonna cherish the season that it was. Like still American League champions at least. Like I don't think it's gonna be a like kind of even Brandon said. He's probably still like, oh no, let me do the scene from Zombieland and take some money and just wipe my tears away. Oh no, there we go. But the one thing that did I guess not surprise me too much, but looking at it, Oscar brings it up in the chat with Dodgers only led an average in OPS, and again, great point, less than 5 points in each. It was really close. Like even when the Dbacks and some of the categories they lead in, it's not like by a landslide or a blowout. Like these were borderline very comparable offenses when you're just looking at some of the pure stats. And the Dodgers did strike out a lot more. Like I know guys like Teo, and then I know they let him go, but Jason Hayward, Max Muncy. Actually, no, Max Muncy's a terrible example. He never strikes out, it seems like. So they did have a little more swing and miss. But I don't know. It's going to be tough because I think the missing on the playoffs and all that is going to make them fall out in the end. But who knows? Maybe, like Gabe said, maybe a lot of teams. Maybe it was voted on a week or two before the season ended, to where they didn't see the D-backs have that shitty finish, to where like that maybe doesn't really correlate or have too much effect on it. But kind of like with it, just the one thing about the offseason, I feel like is going to be the hot term, and the one that I use probably the most is wait and see, because genuinely it's just all a waiting game. Like voting, awards, free agency, trades. It's just you got to try to just wait. Only time will tell. But one thing that we have to wait a little bit on, and this kind of ties into a viewer question that we had in our Discord. Again, if you guys aren't in the Discord, click that link, join in. We do have an entire channel just for viewer questions, which, again, if you have anything, it doesn't have to be when we're on a live. You could just be waking up, going on a walk, or, getting off work and go, oh, here's a question I wanted to run by the guys. Shoot it in there. We'll talk about it on the show. And then the one that we had from EDM CC, or EDMCCC. Want to make sure I get their name
Check
right.
out his Twitter. Like if you're an MLB
Yeah.
The Show fan, yeah.
He does a lot of really cool MLB card art, and is starting to make them into actual cards too. So hit him up for some of the work on that.
Yeah.
But the question that he had for us, that kind of tied into our last topic here, was asked us, with Devin Williams on the trading market and most potential landing spots, let's show the D-backs in the top 5. And again, this was, I believe, the walk-off Bleacher Report. So it's not like an MLB top 5. It's still something to keep in mind. But asking, with the D-backs in the top 5, what would a trade look like for an elite closer? And then the second parter, would Camilo Doval be a better option? So I'm going to kind of work with this question a little bit. And the way I had it worded for you guys was, yes, there's some great arms currently in the D-backs bullpen, J Mart, Puck, Ginkel. But would adding a guy like Devin Williams and his disgusting airbender changeup make their 2025 bullpen immensely better and kind of have that Seawald effect of the 23 Seawald effect, of the guys slotting into their proper position? If so, what kind of package do you think it would take to get it done? I know, like, even I sent it in the group chat. Hazen was talking a little bit about potentially shopping a starting pitcher because they are going into spring training with 6. So maybe they get a deal done that involves whether it's one of the, like a Ryan Nelson or somehow Jordan Montgomery or a different guy. What kind of trade package do you think it would take to get Williams from the Brewers, who again is going into his final year, I believe, before free agency? So, Gabe, like normal, I want to start with you. What would your potential trade package be to land the righty?
So I think someone with like Devin Williams' ability, I think maybe he might have been a little bit hurt by the playoffs, how he performed there. So maybe his stock isn't as high as it would have been at the actual end of the season. But still, he's probably going to get a good package. No, they're probably going to get a good package anyways for him. I said it during the trade deadline episode that I think as fans we should stop being so precious with our draft picks, because we've seen, these playoff teams and even World Series teams, they make these big moves. They'll trade away, certain draft picks like, oh man, like what's his face? He's with the Yankees now for Glaber. Like, was it Glaber that the
for the Cubs,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it was Glaber that they traded for Chapman. Chapman helped them win the World Series. Like, there's a lot of trades, in baseball history, especially at the deadline. Well, they'll get certain relievers and they'll win the World Series because of these relievers. And I think, with the D-backs, they got Puck, who was incredible, but then they also got Floro, not great. He cost them a few games, but there's a few games as well because of how taxed and how bad the starting pitching was, that this bullpen was just used so much that we would go into like the 9th or 10th, and the way Lovello managed certain bullpen games, and he would throw out J Mart with 2 or 3 guys on base, and kind of put him in no-win situations and stuff like that. But you kind of do you play with the hand you're dealt. But when it comes to Devin, I think you're probably starting with Jordan Lawler, and it goes down from there. And
Ooh.
I don't know how I would feel about that, because I love Perdomo. I think Lawler is better, and I think he's going to be a star as soon as he actually makes it to the majors. And the only issue with Lawler has been the injuries, but I don't know if he just has the injury bug or if it's just pure bad luck, and then he should be fine and ready to go. I would prefer him over Perdomo. I just think he has a higher ceiling than Domo does.
He does.
He's better than him by quite a few years, and then I think he is the future shortstop. So I don't know. I don't know if I would feel comfortable giving away Lawler like that. But again, we can't be so precious because Lawler is still technically a lottery ticket. We know what Devin Williams is. Jordan Lawler, when he came up in the big leagues, I believe he batted around 150 as well. Like, he did not perform too well. He did play good defensive shortstop. So at least there's no issues there. Offensively, we'll still have to wait and see. But yeah, I think it would start with Lawler, and I think it would go down from there. Certain guys, there are in Double-A, but I can't see the Brewers giving him up for less than Lawler.
Yeah, so I know last year, it seems like the Brewers just constantly do this. They're almost like the A's, it seems like, where they'll just let really good guys develop and they'll play out their time
They
there, and
sell
then
high.
they sell
They
high.
always high.
And it's not
They always sell
necessarily
high.
a terrible option to run your team as, but I imagine that being a fan of that team, it'd piss you the hell off because you're like, why every time we're doing this? Like they got DL Hall from the Orioles for Corbin Burns, and that was a pretty solid trade. But again, it's maybe we're selling a little bit low. I know Corbin Burns, not in the same aspect of Williams, but he didn't have the best of 2023 postseasons when the Dbacks went into town there. Obviously, the Corbin bomb. We'll always remember that, one of his last pitches as a Brewer. But some of the potential packages I saw, especially on the Instagram, because I had to get rid of Twitter for a little while, just a nice little refresh until the hot stove heats back up. But like Gilbert Diaz, maybe. Sorry about that. Like Christian Mena, I could even see like if we don't get rid of Lawler, Blaze Alexander might be a little more expendable. You could have guys like Tommy Troy, even some other right-handed pitchers. I think Dylan Ray is still an option. And I think it would be tough, but like Gabe said, I think it might be time to not be as prospect hugging. Sometimes you got to make the trades. Just don't do, like I said, I think Lawler would be the one where I would be a little more reluctant. But if it's any other guy and a package of some of those other guys, maybe still not Yumin Lin. But I like Gabe said, we know who Devin Williams is. He could be an instant upgrade. And I would be over the moon if we got him. But Brandon, same question to you. What kind of package do you think it would take to get the right-handed airbender? Which I'm gonna say it as much as I can because it's one of the best names for a pitch ever. But what do you think it would take to bring him over here to the desert?
I mean, it's a screwball, but okay. What about Tommy Troy? Like, I think that's one I'm willing to part with. Like Jordan Lawler, like Gabe said, like he is a superstar, but there's a reason he fell in the draft, and it's what we've seen. Like he can't stay healthy. So I was thinking definitely Tommy Troy, and then I was thinking maybe one of our like pitchers that's like pretty much ready to go. So maybe like a Christian Mena, potentially, maybe Blake Walston, and then just, if they're willing, just throw in Ivan Melendez. Just like, here, take him, because he is not playing on this. Like, he is not playing on this team. Like, this team values defense, which he doesn't have. So I would start the conversation with Tommy Troy. If they ask Jordan Lawler, I think Mike Hazen says no. Yeah. Like, it's just like what happened at the trade deadline in, what was that, 23. Everyone kept asking for Alec Thomas. And Mike Hazen's like, no, because I know what I have. Unlike other team GMs with their young prospects, sometimes they don't know what they have, and they're willing to, like, can you include draft picks in these trades, or is it only
baseball doesn't have draft picks in trades?
Okay. Right, that's what I thought.
One name that kind of, like, if it's not going to be Lawler, if it's not Tommy Troy, I know his name kind of came up last year. He shot up from being a, I guess, more like not well-known guy to he's now our currently 10th ranked prospect, just going off of MLB rankings. But Yancel Luis, infielder, he was in just low A. He had a really solid, and I think he went from rookie ball, development ball to low A. He had a really solid year. You could see a guy like I said earlier, Gilbert Diaz. I don't think you'll see the Slade Caldwell or Ryan Waldschmidt moved at all.
No.
But like Dylan Ray, Landon Sims, I don't want to see him go, but maybe the Brewers want to try to get another reliever to replace Williams with. Jorge Barosa, with all the outfielders that we have, he could be a little bit backed up still. Same with Jack Hurley.
I think it's going to take one of our younger prospects and someone that's almost MLB ready. So that's why I was saying Blake Walston, Christian Mena, maybe along with Tommy. Like, it's either that or you send a bunch, like 4 or 5 prospects.
And the Brewers aren't going to want that. They're going to want somebody, I think you said, with like the starting pitcher, probably more major league ready. Somebody that's going to be willing to slot in.
We love this guy on the podcast. Do you think if it only Yumin Lin, like, do you think like Yumin Lin and then maybe like Jorge Barro, like would they do it for that?
Not just, I don't think just those two. I think they would be a solid piece, and then a few other, like no Lawler, no Troy, no like top 10. But I think those wouldn't be the only two. I think the Brewers would want a little bit more.
Yeah, I think with him, it's just I would rather wait and see with Devin Williams, just to see, the playoffs were a bit of a fluke, but also I think we need to see, who we have on this team, who's going to perform. Do we have any guys in the minors who can come up and perform? Because Jamar was a question mark, and now he seems to be probably our best reliever. Same with AJ Puck. But again, we gave up Davison De Los Santos for AJ Puck, and a lot of people were upset about it. And AJ Puck
I was fine with it.
In the group chat, I was upset about it. I was in the group chat because I really like DDL.
It was
I
also
kind of wasn't, because I'm like, he's not, like, he doesn't want to play defense. So we knew like this team was not going to have him play because he refused to even try to be he didn't have to be good, just average. Like if he worked on it just a little bit, but he basically was like, no.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. But like, if you looked at the peripherals again, AJ Puck came here with like a 4 ERA or something like that. It was still high. So if you looked at just the accounting stats, if you looked at just the accounting stats, you would see Davison batting, 350 with 1,000 OPS in the minors, and meanwhile Puck had like 4 ERA. So that's why a lot of people were upset at the time. But if you dig into the numbers a little bit more, you would see Davison striking out like a 30% rate. He had difficulty playing defense, and AJ Puck, as soon as he was turned into a reliever, just became a shutdown guy. So again, we can't be as precious with our guys. Like I do think, we have somebody else waiting in the wings. We could and should part ways with them because again, this team for the most part, in most positions, have at least one or two guys who, are only a year or two away from being called up to the major leagues, whether it's pitchers, shortstops, or certain outfielders, and they can flip these guys and get something really good for them, whether it's Devin Williams or someone else. But if we have Devin Williams, we don't have to rely on. I know he's not here anymore, but a Paul Sewald or a Scott McGuff or a Miguel Castro.
We kind of do now.
I'm saying most of these guys are
we got
gone
a younger
now.
version of Paul Sewald, y'all.
Oh, Martinez.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, but like we at least wouldn't have to use those sort of guys. We would have 4, elite / borderline elite guys in the bullpen as opposed to 3 of them or something like we had for most of the season, and you can maneuver them around so you're able to use at least 3 of the 4 every single night.
Yeah, so it's definitely going to be one of those where a lot of teams are going to be interested in him. Like he's one of the more hired or more well-known reliever arms. And again, I know the Pete Alonso home run off of him in the playoffs and him punching the wall and breaking his hand before might make people go like, why would I want this guy? But man, just go watch some highlights, look at some of the stats, and try to tell me that you wouldn't want him, because then I just would at least know that you're either high or just maybe not fully.
They don't need to make the like this is not
a need to
like,
but it'd be nice.
It's like, oh no, we need a closer. We have 2 solid options.
Yeah, but look what the Dodgers did, man. They went out and they got I know Kopech was a little bit different, but like Gabe said earlier about if this doesn't push the Dbacks, like I don't want it to be like an overreactionary thing, but
I don't want
having an elite bullpen.
Like they have to make this trade. Like
yes,
they don't need to. Should they? Yes. Like,
is it a necessity?
But like, if they don't make it, it's not like it's a not successful offseason.
But I think the question would be, if the Diamondbacks would have traded for Devin Williams for this year, would they have made the playoffs? And I think the answer is yes. And
nope.
I think they would have to rely on
our starting pitching. Our starting pitching was a mess. That's why we did.
Well, I believe our relievers had something like 30-something losses combined and 20-something blown games, and having Devin Williams would have, I know we talked about.
Yeah, it's
Lori had his whole closer closer by committee for the first few months that Seawald was gone. He had that closer by committee, and he was just throwing guys in there left and right while Seawald was injured. Having Devin Williams there wouldn't have been a question mark. We could have put in, Thompson or Ginkgo or anybody else, in these sort of positions. And I think adding AJ Puck in there as well, I think this team easily would have made the playoffs. They probably would have even won more games than the Dodgers as well.
Yeah, so I do see both sides. Like, yes, the starting pitching was rough, but the having again, even like we're making the jokes about we got a younger Seawald. Martinez is not even expected to be in the role that Seawald was, where Seawald was given and had the closer role. Like it's a way more high leverage, more important versus like Martinez is going to basically get the probably the Floro role or just like I'm going to call it the Randall Delgado role because I feel like that's just the best way to put it. He goes in there, he'll give you whether you're up by a bunch, down by a bunch, or you just need some innings, he'll probably go in there in the lower leverage. But I think having the Devin Williams in there, I think is a good point of maybe there are a few games where Puck gets an extra, night to rest or J Mart does, and they can even slot into their you don't have to worry about, oh, well, I used Puck last night in the 8th inning, but tonight I have to use him now in the 7th inning because we have a tough left. Like, you don't have to worry about that. It's, who you're going to go to, and having a guy like Devin Williams, I can see Gabe's point is it almost has that same 2023 Paul Sewald effect of it lets everyone settle into what their, better job is.
I just don't think the Brewers are going to make the same mistake. Like they are going to probably want more than what they got for Josh. Like they gave up Josh Hader for nothing. Literally didn't cost the Padres anything on that. So
I'd be okay if they didn't do the same. If they did the same, I'm not.
I guess they did the same thing with Corbin Burns as well. They didn't really get too much out of him. The shortstop that they got batted like 230. Like there really wasn't much there.
He didn't play shortstop. He was playing third.
So, I mean, they got a shortstop, I guess, but
correct.
He also didn't bat too good, anyways. But again, the Brewers, they don't really want to spend money. Like I think they probably would be fine not having to pay, those arbitration numbers or anything for him. So, and who knows how the relationship is? Like we knew that once the Corbin Burns. The way he talked about the arbitration process, so the Brewers had, blaming him for not making the playoffs. Who knows what the relationship is there, especially because Devin Williams, to a certain extent, was the reason why they lost in the playoffs. So, when they go into an arbitration hearing,
they're going to go. They're just going to play the Pete Alonso home run and be like, "Here you go." Anything else, Judge?
I don't know if they could use playoff numbers for that. I wouldn't know about that, but if they are, then yeah, it's going to be kind of a crap show, I think, and there's probably going to be a lot of bad blood there.
Yeah, and then who knows? Maybe if it seems like they're looking for more major league ready guys to plug in, so maybe we can have a little classic Mike Hazen fleece. And again, imagine we give up a guy like Blake Walston. Christian Robinson, let him, try to get his feet wet, actually get some major league time. He deserves it. I just don't think he's going to get it here. And then some of the other, maybe not 10. Yeah, Brewers being in the Central does help a little. That's a great point, Oscar. Thank you. Anybody in the Central, if you just have a above average team, you're probably going to look like gods. But it's definitely going to be, one of those where I just would rather us make the trade for him and pull the trigger than the Dodgers bolster their bullpen, than the Padres already, because they're going to be losing Tanner Scott. So I could see them trying to make a trade to fill that spot.
They could try to re-sign him.
I mean, yeah, but just thinking of one of those where it seems like more up the Padres' alley, if they can trade away some of their prospects to get a guy like Devin Williams, he's going to be a hot commodity, I feel like, if he is on the trade block. And I would be more than okay with him, coming on in here. But again, kind of as I said before, only time will tell. But wanted to get some final thoughts from both of you gentlemen on get everything. Walker Gold Glove, Ketel Marte, and then the team itself, Silver Slugger, and then just anything else. So final thoughts, sirs?
Just Mike Hazen has a lot of work to do. He has to look for certain options, whether it's at first base, upcoming third base. Like, I don't envy him. He's gonna have to come up with a decision with certain guys like Merrill Kelly, who's a free agent after this year, Zach Gallen, who's a free agent after this year. I know I talked about it on the PHNX show about possibly trading Gallen. I don't think they will unless, they pull like a Zach Greinke trade in 2019 where they get a younger Zach, version of a Zach during the trade deadline. So maybe Hazen has his eye on a certain younger guy, maybe a guy from Seattle or even from some of the Marlins again. So
he loves to
I
play
can
Seattle.
Yeah, he's he loves
I'll
to
take
please
Logan
his
Gilbert.
team. So
Okay,
certain guys have a little bit more time. I can see him making certain moves that. But I think we have to start thinking about, and we mentioned this. We talked about this a bit, like at the end of the season, where we're talking about like this is no longer a team in development. This team is here. This team is ready to compete. There is no more, reshuffling. There's no more regrouping. There's no resettling anymore. There's no tanking anymore for this team. This team is here, and this team should figure out who they are like now. Are they going to be a favorite in the National League, or are they just going to be in this perpetual state of competing while not competing?
Yeah, their window's open, and it is up to them to decide how long it stays open and how aggressive they can be while that window's open. But Brandon, same thing to you. Final thoughts and all that before we get out of here.
I don't know how this offseason is going to go. We could literally get no free agency or trade stuff for months, or we could have it once a week. That's the thing with the MLB offseason, is you never know when the hot stove is going to heat up. I just want to make Mike Hazen to surprise us. Whether that's signing someone we didn't think was on there.
Juan Soto.
Yep. Is that what I was going to say? Juan Soto.
Or somehow finds a trade candidate for Jordan Montgomery.
Yeah, or something like that, or makes a trade for something else, like, or sign Christian Walker early in the offseason. I just don't think that one's going to happen because I think Christian Walker wants to do the whole free agent experience because he's never done it. He's 34. He's probably not going to get another chance at it. So he wants to see.
If 10 teams want to be like, hey, man, we'll pay for you and put you up in a hotel, get you some nice
he
dinner.
He wants to be courted. Like,
yeah.
He wants to be courted. So we'll see. But I've no Mike Hazen, like Gabe said, Mike Hazen has some work to do because the window is open, but for how long? And I think what happens with Walker, for me, dictates how long that window is open.
That's a good point. Honestly, I think it could be a make or break point for this team and this franchise's future. But I'm going to say it again. I've already said it 10 times. Only time will tell. But what you at least can worry about in the meantime and all this whenever the news breaks down, because we're probably not going to be doing many emergency pods unless there's some crazy news. But whenever there is some news going on, baseball related, Dbacks related, like I know Kyle Hendricks went to the Angels. Good for him. But anything like that, again, join the Discord because we have plenty of conversations in there going on. Like even Brandon said, not even just sports, movies, food, and all that. So make sure you guys join the Discord. Follow us on Twitter as well. Like, comment, and subscribe. It really does help out. Like seriously, like it gets the algorithm. It really loves that kind of shit. So make sure you guys do all that, and then we will see you on the next episode of Dbacks Dispatch.
It's the Dbacks Dispatch. Let's go. Yeah, bring the red game to Josh on the floor. West Coast vibes, catch us on the air. Home running dogs, diamond gems we share. Brandon was a stab, Caesar man was a plan. Red braces down, Chelsea like it is, man. Gabs on fire, brings the heat every time. Josh on the mix, keep the beat so prime. I got the insights every week's a hit. Tune in, Dbacks Dispatch, this is it. Now we rollin'. Dbacks Dispatch, yeah. Talk to Brandon Gabe, this is Big Catch. Josh on the mix, he makes a piece. West Coast vibe, got the G fucking the bad. The home back, the home back, the home back, home back. here to stay. Yeah, catch us every week, we bring the flavor to it. We got the home magic, the home magic, the home magic, home magic. Hey, Dbacks dispatch, we're here to stay. Catch us every week, we bring the flavor to it.